Well, here we are once again. This is the Andy Alberti Show, coming to you from beautiful downtown Pahrump, Nevada. And today is an exciting day for me. Today is the fourth day of the rest of my life. Why do I say that? I want to open the show today telling you just a little bit about what happened to me last week. And to me, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a big deal right now. And actually, when it was happening, it really didn't feel like a big deal then either. It's just that I was disappointed about a couple of things. Anyway, I have made a video on my YouTube channel about what took place. And I do think if you've been having difficulty if you live alone, or you live with a life partner, but not a marriage certificate, or you have a person who's renting a room in your house, whatever the situation, if you have that kind of situation, you should have been at breakfast this morning, because that was the whole topic of conversation. An hour and a half we spent with the Nye County Public Administrator, who can take charge of your assets and your body when you die, especially if you don't have a will, and you don't have a trust or anything. They take control of you like you were a piece of meat. Well, I guess at that point you are a piece of meat, but anyway, they take control of it. And we were curious about how all this works. The week prior, we had Brad from the DA's office come and talk to us about trusts and not protecting your assets. And so Ginger now, who is the county public administrator, let's call her the guardian of your assets, was together. We get a picture now of what really should be done if you want to protect yourself. So I'm mentioning that because what happened to me last Friday, was coincidental with this topic about when you're deceased, what happens? So we went out to dinner last Friday, and I ordered the pulled pork. It's one of my favorite meals. And we went out with a couple of friends. It's all on the video. And just so you know, the food got stuck in my throat, and it got stuck just below my breathing tube. But I couldn't breathe. I mean, I took one bite, and the next thing I know, my face is in my plate, and the saliva is dripping out of my mouth and my nose. I can't control it. It's long and stringy. It was a disgusting thing. I could imagine the other three people sitting at the table. I can imagine they don't want to eat their stuff when they see what's going through me. And I couldn't breathe either. Even though the food was stuck in my throat, I couldn't breathe. But I discovered that I just could, if I was really slow, I could just barely get some air into my lungs so I didn't suffocate. And then I blew out, and I got a little piece of meat that was stuck there. But the rest of it was still stuck in my throat. Now, you would think there's a way to get it out. I can only tell you there isn't. At least not for me on that day. I didn't think I was going to die, but I did when I first swallowed the meat. And I thought to myself, oh boy, now I'm really, I've heard of this happening to people. I always wondered, how did that happen to somebody? And it was so simple. The food went down so easy. It just kind of slipped on down. And then there I was. Anyway, it is on my Facebook page if anybody wants to go look at it. And my Facebook page is Andy Alberti on Facebook, and it'll come right up. And I think that video will hopefully convince some people that, yeah, we think we're going to live forever when we're alive and doing well and our health is good. We've got to realize that once we're not here, we can't do anything about what's going to take place unless we take care of it first, now, while we can. So watch that video. It's only about, I think, 20 minutes. But the video goes all the way through my visit to the first hospital, my visit to the second hospital, the surgery, and my recovery. So all of which took place within 24 hours. So for me, it was a learning experience. And I hope for anybody who watches that video, it'll be a learning experience for you too. So this week at breakfast, we had Ginger Stumner, who is the Nye County Public Administrator, who can refer to as the guardian of your assets in Nye County when you expire. And she spent an hour and a half with us this morning discussing how her office functions, what she can and can't do, some of the issues that they've had, and answered every question that we asked. Now, in an hour and a half, I don't think we were still done with some of the questions, but towards the end, she got a call, I think about 5 minutes before the meeting was over, and she had to head out. Somebody had expired here in Pahrump. That's her job, to go there and make sure everything is protected. So, I think that's enough said. I was watching a video on Dish Network, and I was kind of thumbing through what kind of shows I want to watch that I haven't seen that's in the list. And I ran across the name of a show that really caught my attention. It was about people who drive muscle cars. I guess that's what they're called. You know, these cars where they mount the chassis high up on the body high up on the chassis, so you got to get a ladder to get in it. And they race these things. They don't have an audience. It's just a bunch of people get together and race them for money. And the name of the show was The Dirty Motor Truckers. Now, I don't know. It's a logical name for the show. I mean, when you hear it, I don't know what you're thinking, but it's Dirty Motor Truckers because they race in the mud. And I got to tell you, we watched it. The wife and I both watched it. We thought, well, let's kind of see what this is about. And there's no stands, there's no audience, there's nothing other than the video and the people who've come there to race together. And they race through the mud. It's sort of like a race out, come around the bend, and come back down. And when they come back, they kind of race out, separating themselves, and then they kind of make a U-turn to come back in towards each other. Well, in one of the races, one of the guys loses control of his car and rams into the other car. I thought somebody was going to get killed. I mean, it was that dangerous. And they were not happy about it when they got back, and you could see all the damage. So one guy was almost in tears. The amount of money and time and energy he spent putting that vehicle together. But if you ever get to watch the Dirty Motor Truckers, it's a kind of fun show. It's sort of like those other racing shows, but it's different. So anyway, and that was on Dish Network. I don't know if they have it on DirecTV or not. Probably somewhere you'll find it. And I don't know if they're up on YouTube, but it is a kind of fun thing to watch. Now, another issue that I've talked in the past about money here in the United States. And I'm always concerned about international issues and national issues that affect us locally. And I really think we're getting to a point here where we're having indiscriminate spending to stimulate the economy to the point where it's overheating. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm just a guy that lives here in Pahrump. I don't claim to be any kind of an expert, although I did take a little business college courses when I was in college. And to me, it just looks like they're treading some really dangerous ground. They want to spend more money than we have. So they're going to print more money. And you know, in the past, I talked about this thing called Jubilee. Jubilee is in the Bible in Leviticus 25. And the way Jubilee worked in Leviticus was that the king typically owned all the land. So for the citizens to eke out an existence, they had to contract with the king, and for the right to use the land, they had to contribute a portion of the crop to the king's coffers. Or they might have to borrow money to get some kind of animal or equipment or whatever they needed. And every 50th year, all debts would be forgiven. Now, in those days, those debts could be forgiven by the king because everybody owed everything to the king. The king was like the central bank for his kingdom. And then all properties would revert back to the king and they would start anew. So there was kind of like a round robin every 50 years. Now, there have been some jubilees that have taken place on the planet since that time with normal governments, especially after a war. Happened in Germany after World War II. And when I see them spending money like they're spending right now, the red flag goes up. You can't keep spending like they're doing because they don't have it. They have to figure out a way to get money into the coffers to cover what they're spending. And you're starting to see some events in Washington where one side is so adamant that they're going to do this, and the other side says, wait a minute, we need to. As a matter of fact, there's a thing about spending money here that really, in government, really bothers me. You know, people get into government and maybe they never ever in their lives owned a business. They just got elected and they stay there until they die. Go look on the websites. You'll see how long some of these people have been in office and how many die in office. And they don't die because they get shot. They die because they got so old they couldn't continue to breathe anymore. You know, breathing is a terrible disease. It kills everybody when you don't have it. Anyway, when this Jubilee thing comes along, the Federal Reserve Bank is a bunch of private bankers that the government and you and I, as the citizens of the government, owe the bankers. Now, you might say, wait a minute, the Federal Reserve Bank, isn't that the government? I was 40 years old when I discovered it wasn't, because the name is so misleading. As a matter of fact, you listen to some people on TV and the radio talk about the Fed. So when they talk about the Fed, in your brain, you have to think, wait a minute, which Fed are we talking about? Are we talking about federal government, or are we talking about Federal Reserve Bank? When you hear Janet Yellen, then you'll know that it's the Federal Reserve Bank, unless you're one of those people that doesn't pay attention. But this is the thing. How much money can they print to put the country into debt before they can't pay it back? You know, one of the reasons that they had that 50-year sequence for Jubilee was that as the economy would start to slow down because of all the debt that the common people would acquire, the economy started to slow down. And if it slowed down and people couldn't pay back the debts, there would be no commerce. So one of the ideas behind Jubilee is You forgive the debt, and now the economy stimulates again. And as I understand it, happened like that after World War II. You might want to look it up and do a little reading on the internet if you get a chance. And you might go in and look at Jubilee. Yeah, it's Leviticus 25, as I mentioned. Now, the reason they can get into this trouble, the king, when he extended credit, he had all the money anyway, pretty much. So he was just letting them use some debt to continue on. And the money you have here in the United States now is called fiat money. And it's not fake money. It's just that it's a means of being able to conduct commerce without all the complications of having to weigh the silver coin or the gold coin or whatever you're using to pay. It's just a simple means of exchanging values. The only hang-up I have with it, and this is the hang-up that you should have as well, I think, is that this type of money is like a promissory note. The money used to be backed by gold and silver. As a matter of fact, some people still have a silver certificate, dollar or whatever denomination, because they didn't turn it in when the government wanted it turned in the 30s. But fiat money is just a piece of paper that sells, okay, it represents this value. So let's say you got 100 of those. And you get inflation, and that 100, what that $100 could buy in 1950, today takes $1,000. But the prices didn't go up, but the value of the money went down. So you had to have more money to buy the same thing, but you didn't need all of it. I can hear somebody scratching their head out there. I'm going to suggest that you go to a website if you want to know more about this. And the website is called Gutenberg.org. Gutenberg is like the printing press. I think that's why they picked the name. And they came up with an idea that I also had around the same time of printing books that were out of copyright status. So there was no copyright issues. You just could go print them, make them available. And they have over 60,000 books now on Gutenberg.org that you can download for free. Now, you may not find everything there that you're looking for. For instance, I was looking for the Ethiopian Bible. It's not there. The King James Version is there. The Dewey Reams Version is there. The Catholic Version is there. But I wanted to see the Ethiopian version because they had Enoch in it. And the other Bibles don't have that. Evidently, people in religion think that this person existed and wrote all these chapters about things that took place, but that you shouldn't know about that. So let's not put that in our Bible. Let's just put what's in there to meet the narrative that we want to espouse. There are books that say that it's the Book of Enoch, but when I look at the write-up on those books, it's not just the writing. It's the writing and then somebody's interpretation of the writing. I don't want them to interpret that for me. And you shouldn't want them to interpret it either. If you want an interpretation, you can go take a course and have some discussion. Or get a group together and look at it. So I haven't bought the book for that main reason. And I actually had bought another book of similar nature. And that's what happened in the book. The person writing the book's telling me what it's supposed to mean. No, don't tell me what it's supposed to mean. I can read the words. But you know what's a funny thing? Sometimes the words in different Bibles aren't the same. As an example, the term "thou shalt not kill." Well, in the Catholic Bible, it said "thou shalt not kill," which many do-gooders in this country think that You shouldn't kill anybody, even if they've murdered 30 people. But in another Bible, the term is not kill, the term is murder. And there's a difference between murder and killing. Killing is a violent action. I'm sorry, murder is a violent action. Killing is a result of what you did when you murdered someone. You get killed because you've now become a dangerous society. You've crossed that barrier between no killing and killing, no murder and murder. Now, I'm pleased to say that these are just my opinions, and you don't have to listen to them. You don't have to. If you have other thoughts on it, you could send me an email to andy@andyalberti.com. That's a really simple email. It's my name with .com at the end of it. Anyway, as they spend all this money, you got to wonder to yourself, who the heck have we put in charge of our government to represent you and me? Because this is not a democracy here. This is a republic. It's a representative form of government. Now, the people have the right to put something on the ballot and vote on it. That's democracy. But when you elect somebody to sit on the seat of government and make decisions in government about you, your life, and on your behalf, that's representative government. That's a republic. We have a constitutional republic in this country. And I'm sick and tired of hearing the Democratic Party. They are not the Democratic Party. They are the bunch of schemers, and I should not do that, but I'm going to. They are nothing but a bunch of schemers. I mean, look at these guys in Texas. The whole Democrat legislative portion of their government went to Washington so they wouldn't have to vote on an issue of voting. What? They should just be put in jail. Come back, we'll put you in jail. The jail will be at the legislature. And when you get done, if you don't want to vote, we'll keep you there until you decide you're going to vote. We don't care how you're going to vote, but you got to vote. They knew they were going to lose that vote. So they left, went to Washington. This is not the first time the Democrats have done something like this. They did it in the legislature in Washington also. This gets to be the way you elect people to go to government to argue and debate an issue to decide that we can live a better life, that we can have a better country. And maybe if we have a crash, maybe that would be the best thing that could happen to this country. God forbid it should happen, but at my advanced age, I hope I don't live to see it. And if you're young enough, I hope you don't have to experience it. So there was one other book. I was going to get to that, and I kind of got out of touch here. The reason I told you about Gutenberg.org is that one of the books you should read, and I recommend this, everybody should read. They actually should read this book in school. The name of the book is Fiat Money Inflation in France. And it's written by a man named Andrew Dixon White. And he really didn't write it as a book. He wrote it and made a presentation to a legislative body in 1868, which is like almost 70 years from the time that this occurred in France in 1790. And by the way, you will find people, if you watch these financial shows on television or listen to them on the radio, you'll find people referring these days to fiat money and the dangers that it causes. And when it happened in 1790, because that was the worst collapse of fiat money ever. according to what everybody says. Now, some people say kidney stones are the worst pain. Well, they are if you didn't have childbirth, I guess, but that's the story here. So if you go to Gutenberg.org, just look up Andrew Dixon White, and it'll come up with some of his books, his writings, and you'll find it in there. It's 40 pages. It's an easy read, except it's written and there are some words you may not recognize. You'll have to adapt to them, because when somebody tells you that a document is called a mandat, you're going to have to figure it out. But you should at least read it once, and you'll get the gist of everything that went on. Now, the reason I'm telling you all this about this money is it took France, after they figured out that the money was crashed and done, they were in a year of recovery for 40 years. They didn't recover just overnight. Now, you know, in 2008, when we had a market crash here and everything went to hell in a handbasket, things never really got to firing up like they should until Trump got elected. And then people complain that this guy Trump is, they don't like the way he talks. Well, but he was doing stuff. And I think in reality, here's what's going on. All these companies years ago shipped all their manufacturing overseas. They shipped it to Taiwan, to China, Korea, because labor was cheaper there than here. And prices kept escalating here through inflation. So now when you get people like Facebook or YouTube or Microsoft or any of the big companies, all their electronic chips are being manufactured overseas. If we don't manufacture it, we only make profit for somebody else. And now they're starting to see the error of their ways. And believe you me, the Democrat Party is focused on Russia. I think they should be focusing on China. China has trillions of dollars. They have banking money. We borrowed money from China. We used to send foreign aid to China. I don't know if we still do. But when they're approaching 1.6 billion people in their country, and we have 330 million, let me see, 330 million, that's at least 5 times the amount of population we have. Their economy is really coming on strong, folks. And they know it in Washington. Federal Reserve knows it, and so does China and some of the other countries. They can see it coming. And you know, people like to go with a winner. Have you studied Mandarin lately? Although I do notice that in some countries, the signs are both like in Arabic and English, because English is kind of a worldwide language these days. I think mainly because of the aircraft industry and how it promoted travel. In order to travel, most people had to learn some things in English. So English has been the big, and English, you can make up new words at the drop of a hat. Matter of fact, you get words that could have 10 different meanings, depending on how it's used in a sentence. That's cool, that's great. That's evil, that's bad. All those words could mean the same thing, sort of. Depends on who's saying it and what they're talking about. So going back to the original part of the conversation, get yourself a trust. If you can't do a trust, if you can't afford a lawyer, find someone who has a trust, find some examples of what goes into a trust, and do your own. Get some advice from friends who have them. Put a will into that trust and make sure you have something about where everything is located. Ginger, when she was at the breakfast this morning, had her form It's on the internet, by the way. If you go on the county website and type in Nye County Administrator, you'll find it. And it says that you should put this on your refrigerator. By the way, everybody wants me to put something on the refrigerator. They want me to put on there, I got this, I got that. They want my medical on there. I got to get a bigger fridge. So anyway, her form says, in the event of my death, and it has choices. All you got to do is check the box. Do I have a will? Do I have a trust? Do I have a funeral plan? I added one thing on there because I'm a veteran. And I put in there vet benefit. Because people who are veterans who die without anything as to what to do with your body, Ginger has a way of dealing with that. But she has to know. And then there were other things that she had on the form, which I think everyone should know. Who's the next of kin or the executor for the estate? How do you contact them? Put a phone number in and an address. What funeral home do you want to use? Because if you don't pick it, she will. What do we do with your pets? You got a dog that has stuck by you through thick and thin and loved you to death, and never got mad at you. I mean, spouses get mad at you, but your pets? Cats can get mad at you, but dogs, no, they don't really get mad. And then who should get your pets? What should be done? Maybe you want to be buried with your pet. I mean, everybody's got a choice. And what are the important documents, in addition to what was checked off at the top? I also recommended that you should sign this form, put one on your refrigerator, and give one to someone else so that if the form on the refrigerator disappears, at least there's a second copy somewhere. And I also suggested at breakfast this morning that you might want to write a note on the bottom. P.S. The gold coins are stored in the floor safe. And don't tell them where the floor safe is. Hell, it might not even be any gold coins, but they're not going to know. And if they took the sign down off the fridge and kept it so you look like you don't have any instructions, there would be that person looking for gold coins and a safe in the floor. And believe me, people do have those. There's no guarantee that there's gold in it, but they do have them. And I also think it would be a good idea to have somebody's name on there that witnessed the fact that you put this on your refrigerator, and then give them a copy. So that's my thought for the day on this. Don't let it get away from you, folks. Your family will have enough grief. You don't need to leave them with any more. And by the way, speaking of grief, not everybody grieves when a relative passes away. There have been people, and I had one of my personal friends here in Pahrump, a fellow I liked, and was good friends with. When he passed away, the family wanted his assets, but they didn't want his body. They didn't want to do anything with his remains. Do what you want with them. We don't care. How cold and cruel is that? And so what happened, Ginger explained how she deals with it. And having gone through that experience myself with my friend's remains, I understood how that worked as well. And we talked about it at breakfast. So everybody at breakfast, 18 of us, now had a better understanding of what's going on. If you ever want to get an education about things like this, there is no place else I know of in Pahrump that you can go and have just a good, friendly discussion about different issues, about what's taking place. So you're welcome if you want to show up. The meeting costs $5 so we can reimburse the museum. We do meet at the museum, 7:30 every Thursday morning. Sometimes I send a notice, sometimes I don't. And this week I didn't. And they still showed up. And it's good. We all get a chance to have a say. So you're all invited. This is official. I was talking about this money thing. I want to get back to it. Uh, if you remember, maybe you don't, in the late 1990s, there was a big deal about all these countries like France and Germany and England. They were all going to do away with gold backed currency, and they were going to go to fiat money, just like the United States had done, because they saw the benefits. They could make more money. And they did this, and they had put a lot of gold up for sale on the market, and it was driving down the price of gold. They had to pull it back off. So now we've got all this fiat money going around, and there is this thing about a new world order. You don't hear a lot about it these days, but you see it coming. How would you like to have somebody in Germany decided how you should live in the United States? Sound far-fetched? Let me give you an example. They just had a meeting with the G7, and what was being proposed was a global tax on all corporations in the world, a minimum tax. I think it was 15%. Now, wait a minute. Did our government actually say they wanted to be part of a universal tax throughout the world? So that companies were going to other countries where they had minimum tax. And so they would, instead of having to pay the tax we have in the United States, these other countries had lower taxes, so they would send their headquarters there and all of their accounting and what have you, however that worked, and then they would escape paying taxes here in this country. And I know with the Democrats wanting to spend as much as they possibly can to give you all these benefits of their spending and largesse, they need a way to pay for it. And one of the ways is this thing about this global tax. Facebook, YouTube, you name it, Microsoft, everybody. If they've gone overseas, they won't be able to escape paying the tax. Now, there is every time they write something like this, there's got to be some kind of favored entity that we have to not ruffle their feathers. So that happened here. I know of the biggest one that got an exemption from having to do this. And it was the global banking system. Now, wait a minute. If we're going to have a law, you see this in the United States all the time off the legislature, that they pass a law and then the very company that will be hurt by that law, because they'll have to pay more tax or whatever, gets an exemption. Sometimes there's many exemptions to that law. But you, as the average schmo, gets no exemption. What? They're going to give you some kind of benefit because you had a child? If you didn't have a child, somebody else got the benefit, you didn't. And believe me, that benefit never covers the cost of having that child. The cost of that child goes on for the rest of your life, believe it or not. And then they have a child, or two, or three, or four. And now, not only do you have a child, you have your children's children, and they become a burden on you. Now, they may bring some joy into your life. I won't say they don't. It's just that, when does it end? Well, I guess, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, it ends when you go room temperature. So in keeping with this theme of money and dying and everything else, I had to buy a new phone because for the second time, my phone, the glass in my phone cracked. I mean, it still works, but it's kind of erratic. I'll be typing something in the phone, and now it won't take the words that I'm typing. I have to turn it off and turn it on, and it starts up again. Or I can give it a good whack, and then it starts up. God knows what's going on there. So I ordered a new phone. I went on a website called wish.com, as in I wish upon a star. Now, I had ordered some things from this company in the past, I ordered some niobium high strength magnets, which were delivered just like promised. Uh, I ordered a new wallet. I like an aluminum case wallet because it slides in and out of your pocket easier than a leather wallet does. And I don't have anything against the leather people. I just like convenience. So I ordered a couple of those. All that stuff has come in that I ordered. So I ordered a cell phone. And the cell phone said it would be compatible with my network, my cell phone network, which is Consumer Cellular. So it came in, and I took by the way, on my credit card bill, it showed the billing, and then it showed the billing being credited, and then the cell phone came in. So I have to go back and figure out what's going on there. But here's the deal. I can't find a place to send it back to. They said I could return it if it was unsatisfactory, if it wouldn't work in the network, but there's no place on their website or on the paperwork they sent or anywhere that I can find I can send it back. Because it turned out that Consumer Cellular will no longer be running a 3G system in the network. It's either 4 or 5G, and that's it. So I had taken the SIM card out of my old phone, stuck it in the new phone, and they didn't like it. The new phone wanted to format my SIM card. Well, that's where all my phone numbers were. So I took that out. I called Consumer Cellular, and they were the ones who informed me that this particular phone will not work in their network. So back it's going to go. How do I, when you have this problem, how do you figure out how to get, I already paid for it, how do you get that canceled? The only way I can figure out, since there's no information on how to return it, is I'm going to call my credit card company tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them I don't want to pay for this thing. I have to return it. Can you tell me where the payment went, and I'll send them the cell phone. I don't want to pay for this thing. It won't work with my network. So we will see how that goes. But for the most part, everything I've ever bought through Wish has worked. But now I know when they tell me something that it can be returned, you better figure out, better look for that return information. I can't find it. And if it's not on their website, and it's not in a packing slip, and different, Wish, I think, is like a marketing network like Amazon. And so you may buy something on Wish, but it's actually shipped from another vendor. And if that vendor doesn't give you the information in the shipment, and Wish doesn't have anything, what do? And the envelope that this phone came in, I looked at the envelope. And when I say envelope, it's kind of like a bubble pack. And there was an address on it and the name of the company. So I looked up the name of the company on the internet, and it turned out it's a dummy corporation out of Maryland, or Delaware. So I'm learning a valuable lesson about Wish. Some things they do ship, and some things they don't. At least they shipped it, but it's a problem. So if you have an opportunity to go on wish.com, they have some great deals. For instance, I bought a solid-state hard drive there. It was an 8 terabyte hard drive, external, so you just plug it into your USB 3 port. And I bought that thing, and I paid $47 for 8 terabytes on a solid-state drive. And believe it or not, it worked. It is an 8 terabyte drive. I have stored stuff on it. I just hope to God it lasts. So I have some other terabyte drives, and I'm going to just double back up just in case. But yeah, everything has been okay that they shipped me except for this cell phone issue. So we'll see where that goes. If you've had experience with wish.com, again, I'd love to hear from you. You can put something on my Facebook page if you like. Andy at it's just andyalberti.com on Facebook. Um, Something I have harped on in the past, and I want to get to it again and again and again until we finally do something. It's about time to move the county seat from Tonopah to Pahrump. That doesn't mean there won't be some services in Tonopah, but all the offices would then be in Pahrump. I mean, we can have a skeleton crew that works out of Tonopah to service the smaller population. But when you have to have two sets of offices, let me give you an example. Nye County School District. You would think because they have so many students down here and so many school buildings compared to the rest of Nye County, that this was the headquarters for Nye County School District. It's not. It's in Tonopah. So you would think that with the county clerk doing all the work they do down here, that the main office is here in Pahrump. It's not. It's in Tonopah. The recorder, the treasurer, they all have to have offices in Tonopah. The sheriff has an office in Tonopah. The DA has an office in Tonopah. And yet almost all the work takes place down here. Those are not the only things. Because Tonopah is the county seat, they have to have a courthouse there and a jail. When I looked at this several years ago, there were 5 people in Tonopah, Child Protective Services, and nobody in Pahrump. Does that sound silly to you? It sure does to me. The way to fix that is to move the county seat down here. Now, I'll tell you what. I was told many times that I should advise the county as to how much it would cost to move the county seat. Bush Baraski, when he was a commissioner, had a video on YouTube. He was interviewed by the local TV station saying that very thing. Now, do you think they came and interviewed me after they interviewed him? Hell no. So we're running 2 sets of offices. I don't know another county in the country that does what we do here. The main offices are so far away, and yet all the business is down here. You want to go on the county website and looking at the financial records of Nye County. The recommendation on the website has been, up until recently, that you have to go to Tonopah to look at it. You want to look at the old records and the old books? You got to go to Tonopah. They can't ship those down here. How do you know how much it's going to cost to move it down here? Here's my simple solution. The county commissioners decide that the people need to speak and have a reasonable debate on the pros and cons and benefits and negatives about bringing the county seat to Pahrump. They can put it on the ballot so we can have a vote on it. That's democracy. And it's the intent to do that. Now, once that takes place and the people vote, then it has to go to the legislature to see if it's okay with them. I tell the legislature, listen, and the legislature created the county. So, they got to have some input here. But historically, traditionally, in this county, every time the population was in a major area, that's where the county seat was moved to. It was originally in Ione, Nye County. Then it moved to, I want to say Bimbo, but that's just in the back of my mind here. Belmont. Oh, well. Moved to Belmont, and then it moved to Tonopah. Actually, Tonopah didn't even want to be in Nye County. Tonopah wanted to be in Esmeralda County. But they did a survey. They had 3 different groups do a survey at one time. They had the state, the county, and a private entity do a survey. And every survey came back that Tonopah belonged in Nye County. There's even a Death Valley Days show which kind of covered that when it took place. So, yes, this is the case. So Tonopah's stuck here. They wanted to go to Esmeralda County. Guess what? The population in Esmeralda County is 1,000 people. I'm giving you a rough number. The population in Tonopah is at least 2,000. So if Tonopah became part of Esmeralda County, guess who's going to run the county? Joni Eastley and Lorinda Wickman. Or somebody that they put in. The people who are in Esmeralda County won't have enough votes to keep control in their own county. And so there you are. But what we should do, we should take the records that are in Tonopah, and they should be all brought down here, and the county seat should come down to Pahrump. And the people can vote. And if the people vote and they want it, I'm sure the legislature would allow it. Now, would it cost $4 million? And people say it would cost too much. $4 million isn't, that's a drop in the bucket to build an animal shelter where they can take everything from a parakeet, a pupfish, and an elephant. I think this is a common sense issue. And when we have county employees working a 4-day work week, since when does government work 4 days a week to serve the people who pay their salary? Who decided they should do a 4-day work week? What's the benefit to the people, the citizens? You show me the benefit, and I'll show you a negative. What's the benefit? They get 3-day weekends. What's the negative? You don't get to see anybody on a Friday at certain departments because they don't work on Friday. They work a 10-hour day, 4 days a week. But that's not the idea here. The idea, when you go to work for the government, you go to work there to support and do the things that need to be done for the population. Now, one of the few departments that works 5 days a week is the clerk's office, because they have to. Because there are legal issues that go through the clerk's office. That's my understanding. Maybe somebody else would want to think a little different. But the county seat, if it was here, do you know every elected official has to go to a meeting in Tonopah at least once a month, because that's the county seat. And there were 4 officials that live in Pahrump that have to go to Tonopah once. Now, they're starting to do some of it by video conference. But the law says they have to go to Tonopah, that the meeting has to be held in Tonopah. So at least one person will be there. Maybe the person who is representing the north part of the county. Now, in my own mind, I would love to serve on a committee, if the county would put one together, to discuss how best to do this transition at the lowest cost and most benefit. But just for somebody at the county to say it'll cost too much, I don't believe that. I believe that we're getting scammed. And there have been times in the past when county commissioners, and I'm not going to say it's this county commission that exists right now because they change periodically, but past county commissioners have tabled items and then decided them in Tonopah that affected us down here. There's no reason to have, like the county treasurer, have him have to go to Tonopah periodically every 1 or 2 weeks, once or twice a month, to manage the office up there, or any of the other elected officials. That staffing in Tonopah could be almost half what it is today. And there have been times when I know the treasurer was short-staffed down here, previous treasurers, there was only 2 people in the office, the elected official and 1 employee. And then they had like 3 or 4 up in Tonopah. If they were all brought down here, there wouldn't be any split. There would be no problem. They'd all be in one place, easier to communicate. And listen, there have been problems with that office in the past that I'm thankful that John Prudhomme has, I think, done his best to make it a better run operation. But it has turned out that when you spread money around in different places and you have a problem managing things. I don't want to get into that today. I think I probably have gone into it more than I wanted to today. But you just need to know that it's important to have the county seat down here. It has always been done that way traditionally. When the population went from 10,000 people in Ione down to 100 or whatever it was, they moved the county seat. And when that happened in Belmont, when the population, because it's for mining, when the mining operations died off, the people left. And actually, Tonopah in 1902 applied to the state using the process, and the state declined allowing them to move the county seat from Belmont to Tonopah. But they really wanted the county seat there because the population was at 10,000. So guess what? In 1904, they submitted again, and the state legislature approved it. And in 2005, they went to Belmont, picked up the records, and brought them to Tonopah, and it's been there ever since. But now Tonopah's population is minimal compared to Pahrump. And the south end of the county, it's even bigger if you count in Beatty and Amargosa and Crystal. So let's get on the bandwagon here, folks. Let's talk to our commissioners. Let's convince them that this would be a good thing to put it on the ballot and let the people understand why it is they don't want to move the county seat down here. I can't think of a good reason, folks. $4 million for the dog facility, dogs and cats and whatever they're going to have, and yet it's too expensive to move the county seat down here when we've got the town offices are almost only, there's not much going on in there. They're pretty much vacant. It's not the only vacant building down here. The building on Calvados that used to be a medical building has been vacant for 4 years. Come on, folks. Let's get this done. And let's figure out how to make this a better place to live and keep the expenses at a minimum. So, okay, I've kind of given you everything I've got. I want you to know I'm an extremist. If being an extremist means I care about logic and cost and efficiency, count me in. And with that, this is Andy Alberti. I've been on channel 98.1 FM today. And if you would like to hear some replays of the show, it'll be on at the same time during the rest of the week. And if you want to contact me, it's Andy at andyalberti.com. And with that, I have enjoyed being with you, and this is the 4th day of the rest of my life, and I'm thrilled about it. With that, I'm out of here.